Hi, good evening, everyone. I have the red live button, so hopefully we'll start to kind of populate and I'll see a bunch of you out there if you want to throw a quick hello in the chat. Oh, look at that. Had to get it out. So Frank, hi. Thank you so much. Hi to everybody else as we start to get rolling here for our second already of these Office of Student Transitions caffeine chats. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. And for those of you who are coming back from last week, thanks so much for joining us again. My name is Lindsay Barnt. I'm the Director of Student Transitions here at the College of New Jersey. And these are for you. So it's just a really great opportunity to have questions answered, to touch base. We send a heck of a lot of information to your student, but we know that there's a lot going on with your student, especially now. I feel like just end of high school craziness and maybe a little bit quieter for some of my transfer families that are on the call tonight. Your semesters have probably been over for a couple of weeks now, but just a really great opportunity for you all to connect with my office. And so what happens now, so last week it was just me. We did a big kind of general overview of what the summer was going to look like, upcoming chats, but really we make a joke that this is kind of like a talk show every week or every 2 weeks that we do these. I am bringing on a special guest because I'm a generalist. I've been at TCNJ for a decade, going on a decade now. I know a lot, but I am not the expert in any one particular area of expertise here. And so the thought is that every week I'll have kind of a guest speaker who comes on who gets to talk about their area of TCNJ, their expertise, and how they support all of our students, and that would be obviously including yours coming in. So before a couple housekeeping items before I announce Ivonne tonight, but Ivonne, thanks so much for joining us. All right, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention that it's Father's Day. I'm sure everybody kind of already knew that. So happy Father's Day to all of the dads joining us tonight. Extra special thanks to you for all that you do for your families, and happy first day of summer. So kudos to everybody who summer is their favorite holiday. I am a summer baby. I am an August birthday. Summer is summer better than fall. I feel like summer and fall very neck and neck, but we're coming into my favorite kind of 6 months of the year. So happy Father's Day. Happy summer solstice, I guess, last day, longest day of the year. Happy start of summer, and happy Sunday. So my mug tonight, because I have to show you all my mugs. So in honor of all of our awesome dads out there, it's my little mug. It's very simple, but it just says grateful on it. Some of you may have it. It is a total Joanna Gaines collection from Target, $4.99 purchase. My partner Matt yelled at me and told me I wasn't allowed to buy any more mugs. I went on a huge mug spree, I think during COVID. But this one says grateful, just appreciative of not only all of our dads joining us, but really all of you who are taking the time tonight to join in and to listen and to ask really thoughtful questions. The more questions you ask, the more information we can share, and it just really helps everybody in the long run. So, and I actually have, it's not ice cream tonight. Last week, Ivonne, it was ice cream because I was telling them that if I drink even decaf too close to bedtime, it messes me up. So I didn't want to do that, but I have a bunch of work for transfer orientation part 1 on Tuesday. So I will be up a bit tonight after our session. So real tea, decaf tea in there tonight. All right, I am done rambling. I am going to go ahead and introduce Ivonne. So what we're gonna do for everybody tonight, Ivonne has a PowerPoint she's gonna go through. A handful of slides, really just covering all of the support services that fall under Ivonne. So Ivonne's our Executive Director for Student Success and Retention. I think I got that right? Thumbs up. Yes. And she oversees a few super important offices on campus. The first, our Educational Opportunity Fund program, our EOF program, falls under her purview, the Center for Student Success, and tutoring. And those are two very different things. And she's going to walk through and kind of explain how they complement each other. But she is in the realm of more academic support services for your student, right? So this is kind of where we are in the process. Your student's going through pre-registration right now, and I will talk a little bit about that at the end. But she's really going to kind of come in and really give a nice overview for how her office supports all of our students and why it's so important for your student to connect with them in the beginning of the, in that first semester, towards the beginning of the first semester. And then afterwards, because we'll have some time at the end, any questions that were submitted through the submitted question link I put in that confirmation email, I will try to get to as many of those as possible at the time that we have left. All right, too much talking. I'm going to mute myself and share my screen. And Ivonne, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Cool beans. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there or people who play that role. As Lindsay said, my name's Ivonne Cruz, and I am the Executive Director for Student Success and Retention at the College of New Jersey, and I've had a very long tenure at TCNJ. I am in my 25th year of working here as a professional, but I also went to TCNJ as a student twice. I got my bachelor's degree from Trenton State College, that's what it was, in the 90s, and I got my master's degree from TCNJ. So it looks like I went to two different schools, but when you see my degrees. But as you could see, TCNJ is in the blood. I'm very connected. I have a super long history, and because it's a special place, and you'll find, you'll hear from many of Lindsay's guests when they tell you how long they've been around. There's a lot of us, what I call lifers here, a lot of people who have spent a lot of time at the college, and many who are alum who've come back and work to the college. That says a little something about us. And I always like to highlight that piece. So today we're going to be talking about the different resources that are available for students' success, and in particular towards the students' academic success. But in reality, we do look at the student holistically and try to recognize that you can't ignore this piece or that piece because everything overlaps. So it's not, when we're talking about academic support services, it's not just for kids who are struggling, who don't have what it takes to take that calculus course. It's not that. Our admissions team does a pretty phenomenal job of matching students to the rigor that this institution has. So it's really a kid being able to transition their study skills, students struggling with time management pieces. So there's, for many kids, a lot of stigma attached to reaching out and maximizing resources. And hopefully today I'll demystify it a little bit and help you all recognize how this is beneficial to any student at any point in their academic career. So moving on, the overall window, that goes slowly, our overall window of student success and retention, SSNR, I'll be calling it for short, are three main areas: our tutoring center, our Center for Student Success, and our Educational Opportunity Fund program. In today's presentation, we're going to be focusing on the first two, because the EOF program is an outstanding program, but it's a very targeted, specific program that students are admitted to from the point in which they enter TCNJ based on different criteria and eligibility criteria for financials, academic, and so forth. So that cohort of students that we admitted, a group of 88 this year, they know who they are, and they've been getting a great deal of outreach. So if there are any EOF pounds out there tonight, shout out to that in the chat. And if you do have specific questions, I'll be able to answer it. But since that's a targeted program to a specific group of students, I'm going to be focusing today's presentation on the Tutoring Center and Center for Student Success, because at a lot of other institutions, and you might have heard this when you were doing your college search, they call tutoring centers in a lot of other schools Centers for Student Success. So people are like, well, what's the difference? And they're literally right next to each other. And we have a really great reciprocal referral relationship between the two areas. And it's great now that we're under this overall umbrella, but they do offer two very different and distinct types of resources to any student who wishes to use our services. There's some students we specifically target, but any student can walk in and use CSS, or Center for Student Success, or the Tutoring Center. So moving on, I always like to start with this analogy. And if any of you came to Accepted Students Day, I'm sure you've seen this from different members of my staff. But wait, don't do the second one yet. Wait, Lindsay. I love this, and I can't take credit for it, but to me, it's just such a perfect analogy to what your students are going to be going through. The transition from high school to college is like checkers to chess. The same board, drum roll please. Oh, totally different set of rules. You look at it, it looks the same, it feels the same. And intellectually, I know, I get it. Your students understand this is not 13th and 14th grade. I know they know that. But sometimes when you're sitting in a classroom or staring at a Zoom, like many of our kids did in their final senior year, it feels the same. So you fall into old patterns. And but what they did in high school is so different. It's just a small piece of what they're going to have to do now in college in terms of thinking. If you want to continue the analogy with the games, checkers is so simplistic. Chess, you're talking about thinking 2-3 moves in advance, being prepared, being strategic, and having lots of different strategies in your toolbox of how to address things. You know, the people who study chess understand that there's lots of different, if they move their, one pawn this way, then I could try this, or this. That's how students need to approach their studying. They didn't really need to do that in high school. So now is the time to explore different things. They're going to start to exercise muscles academically they never even realized they had. They never had to exercise them before. Some of your students out there might have been phenomenal students in high school, but they may not have had to work too hard because it came easy to them. So those students have some study skills, but never really pushed themselves. It was enough, and they did great, and they had that aptitude, and they were able to do it. So when they come to college, they're not just transitioning study skills, they're kind of building new ones. I was one of those students. I didn't go to a particularly strong high school. I didn't know that at the time. So I never really learned how to study. And luckily I had a great roommate that I kind of emulated what she did and mimicked, how she studied, and then slowly came into my own. But there's a lot of those students out there, and a lot of the parents and family members know which ones you're really scared about, because you know that they're not ready for this just because they haven't been pushed as hard as college is going to push them. So that's what the support services under student success and retention are made for, to help the students in whichever area they need to get to that point. So moving on, what are the keys to a student's success at TCNJ? First is being prepared for those college level expectations. The time management, the self-discipline. Academically, it's not like they're going to learn that calculus or the language overnight. They did prepare K to 12, but the expectations of needing to self-impose a structure for how they study, how they approach their coursework, how they layer in activities. School for them was very structured and rigid. You had classes, 8 to 3 or whatever, and then you had activities, and then maybe they had a part-time job at night, and boom, and you started the next day all over again. Well, now at TCNJ, the way it works is a full load, unless you are engineering or particular majors, for most students, a full load is 4 courses, only 4 courses in a semester. They're very likely going to have a huge chunk of the day off, maybe a whole day off, maybe 2 days, like depending how their schedule falls. So how they impose a structure on themselves is brand new. How to build that discipline. Heck, you even know your own kids, helping them wake up on their own. That's going to be its own challenge. Transitioning those study skills, and we talked about that, a few moments ago, of either recognizing how it needs to be a little different now, or recognizing they need to build a whole new set of skills. Passive learning behaviors. They never really had to outreach to their teachers. These are people they saw every day. They had relationships with them. Now you're seeing a professor once or twice a week. And even though our professors are very accessible, the students need to initiate those relationships. They need to go to office hours. They need to email their professor to ask that question. There's going to be a lot of assumptions made. That's something they haven't done before. So one of the things that with our Center for Student Success we can help students do is kind of almost role play how to do that. Some students are very uncomfortable in those settings of needing to go up to a professor and ask for clarification, or maybe ask for an explanation as to why they got a particular grade, almost feeling like they might be challenging the professor. But that's all part of the growing that a student needs to go through in college. Forming mentor relationships and connecting with people, whether it's a faculty member and building that because these are the people that are going to help connect them to internships, to job opportunities, to research. Sometimes research into walking into their sophomore year, different labs. And by labs, yes, I'm thinking of sciences, but not just sciences. A lot of our psychology and sociology students in the humanities, they work with professors in labs studying behavior, human behavior. And a lot of that happens even in the sophomore year. They need to develop that kind of relationship with a faculty member. Also with staff members, people like Lindsay, people like the team I have, the outstanding team I have in my office in student affairs, and these great people out there that can help build their leadership skills and their academic and personal, professional growth and confidence. There's going to be people out there holding their hand out saying, come on, I want to help you. Students need to take the step to hold that hand and develop that relationship. We can help with that. And last but not least, my key's not on this slide here, but it's being aware of their support resources, understanding what's out there to use, and then what the process is to use it. All your students are going to be introduced to all of this stuff, and there's going to be information sessions for them. There's going to be an info fair when they come for orientation, if they come that day. There's lots of different ways that they're going to get this information. It's a little info overload, though. It's a little, stimulation overload. So sometimes it's like, it was just too much at one time. So you guys, you'll see my information on the last slide. Put it to the side, keep it, and say, hey, I remember that lady that spoke that one time in the summer. Maybe you should reach out to her. And I can't tell you how many times I got an email from a parent about that. Or from a student. My mom told me to reach out to you, because it's them that has to make that initial outreach. But they need, every time they find some new information about what's out there to help them, even if they don't think they're going to need it right now, make sure they keep it somewhere that they can easily access it, because you never know. They may come to use Tutoring Center immediately that first semester, their freshman year. They may not need it till a class in their junior year. Just knowing that it exists and it's there for him. So moving to the next slide, let's talk about our Center for Student Success. So what CSS does is 2 to 3 main things: coaching, like academic coaching and advisement, and doing workshops and informing students of what they do. So there's academic coaching, supplemental advising, some leadership opportunities kind of built into some particularly targeted programs, and we do an extensive amount of workshops. That's very different than the Tutoring Center, which I'll talk about in a second, but that's one-on-one traditional tutoring, what you're probably thinking of. When I say tutoring, it's pretty well known how that process occurs. I'll explain how we do it at TCNJ, but that's not CSS. CSS is professional staff members trained to work one-on-one with a student on whatever they present, be it academic coaching, study skills-wise, or academic advisement, course selection, that kind of stuff. So let's move to the next slide, and we'll talk about what does the academic coaching piece look like. That's personalized one-to-one sessions with a professional staff member in the office. And that could be a one-time drop-in meeting, or they set up an appointment, or it could mean, you know what, I think I'd like to meet with you every other week, Ms. Cruz, or I think I'd love to meet with you, Ms. Anthis, once a week, because I want to stay on top of my things. Or it could just be one person coming in and saying, you know what, I really need some help with time management, just to get a hold of things, to feel like I'm in control of it. And then that's all they need, and they don't come back until another time they may be challenged. So it's personalized to whatever the student presents with. Generalized study skills training. It's the time management stuff, the study habits of how do I approach this very intense reading that I have to do. I only have 4 classes. I thought that was a walk in the park. I have all this free time, and they're just swimming through this beautiful free time the first couple weeks, and then they realize they're up till 2, 3 o'clock every night doing work because they're not managing their time well. And it's not study hard, it's study smart, figuring out what that means for them, because they're going to now need to adapt their learning to the professor's teaching style. And if there's a difference there in the way the professor presents the material and the way the students are used to learning it, they need to adapt to that. And we can help them with that when they struggle. Tailored that coaching to the students' needs. So the note-taking, effective reading, which is huge. The academic assertiveness, that goes back to that passive learning behaviors. So sometimes it is very specific on I'm struggling, even though I know the material, it's not showing when I take a test. Why? What am I struggling with? I'm reading and reading and reading, but I'm falling behind, or I keep falling asleep when I read, or I am crazy behind. How do I catch up? There's a whole myriad of reasons why a student may show up for some academic coaching, but I have a very experienced team of staff members who deal with this on a daily basis, and they are there to help the students. And we have plenty of repeat students who come back and want the regular appointments, or come back every semester and just want to have that sense of confidence, but recognize a big piece of what we do also is, and this is the philosophy in tutoring as well, we're going to teach you to fish. Give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. We're going to teach your kids to fish. We're going to make sure that they can be autonomous in how they approach their studying and their learning and their whole academic experience. But sometimes that takes time, or sometimes the student just needs that one session to think, oh, I never thought of this, that, the other. Those are some great tools. Boom, they leave and they're good to go. Everybody's different. And then they may be fine and come their full semester of their senior year. They've got an amazing internship, and they're the president of 2 organizations, and they got a tough academic semester. They come back and say, you know what, help me balance this. So that way I start my semester right. Lots of different reasons. So the next thing that kind of goes along the line with academic coaching is we do a lot of academic success workshop. So the coaching are appointments one-on-one with a student. Our workshops are offered throughout the semester to students, in a variety of ways. Obviously, we had to adapt that very quickly last academic year. So we presented them all virtually. And we actually found that we had a higher number of students accessing those workshops and viewing them either during the actual webinar, or then it gets posted afterwards and they see it. So even though we're coming back to being in person, I believe we're gonna continue doing in person, but as well virtually, because we want to get to as many students as possible. And they're on all the most popular topics: the time management, the test taking and finals preparation, learning styles, all those different kinds of things. And we use lots of different formats. So there's the traditional webinar, and there'll be, we'll be coming back to campus and doing a traditional in-person workshop. But we also have experimented and had some success with using Instagram Live and doing small snippets, a 10 or 15-minute piece. And we did a whole series on time management with these little 10-minute or 15-minute bites tackling a particular topic. And people would watch it live as well as watch it after the fact, because then they, what was that tip that they gave us? Now they can go back to the video and see it. So we've adapted, and this is going to be one of those great things that we kind of continue because we fell into it and realized that this was a really great way to do it. And then next, I said the whole academic coaching piece and the academic piece of Center for Student Success. We also do advising. All of your students, and you'll hear this from probably future guests of Lindsay's, as well as I'm sure you heard at Accepted Students Day, every single student who comes to the college is going to have an academic advisor. They're going to have a faculty advisor. And even if they're undecided School of Education or undecided business, they're going to have usually either the assistant dean or a particular program assistant within that school at the college that will advise them. Every single student has an academic advisor. Or if you're an undeclared general, actually the Center for Student Success is your faculty advisor. We actually have a few cohorts that we are the main advisor, and I'll talk about that in a second. But so on top of that, we within the Center for Student Success can provide supplemental advising. So we can kind of fill in the gaps and help without that safety net. Because hey, what if you have a student who is a biology major, who actually has a passion and a love for art, and they also want to be an art minor? That's two different schools: the School of the Arts and Communication, and then you've got the School of Science. Sometimes if they're a bio major, their faculty advisor is going to be a biology faculty member. That faculty member may or may not know the logistics and the ins and outs of advising them on how to become an art minor. If they don't, they can come to us. So there's always a place that they can go to, always a second layer, always the safety net. Picking liberal learning classes, that's what we call like the general education. Every student's got to take a math and a science and a history and a language. Everybody's got to take that overall piece to be sure you're well-rounded. And then there's the core classes you need in your major. If you need help finding what makes the most sense for me, maybe there's a particular, what kind of history class should I take? When should I take it? If your faculty advisor isn't comfortable answering that question, we can. Policy or procedures clarification. How do I withdraw from a class if I need to? How do I ask permission to take a fifth course? All the little things like that. Creating an academic plan, creating a sequence to graduation, especially if you want to layer in a minor or a second major or a disciplinary concentration. There's all these different things, and it can be really, really overwhelming. Know that you have multiple places to go to, because my staff, we're generalists. And the corny phrase I use is, we don't know a little bit about everything. We know a lot of it about everything. That's our job. So all of those pieces, they are well trained. Actually, my staff is the one who trains new faculty members on how to advise in terms of the general pieces of that. So please know that your students are going to be well taken care of as it relates to advising and their plan to graduation. That's why we got such a great 4-year graduation rate, to put it frank, because there are all these different pieces and levels across the college to ensure students aren't flying in the dark, but they have a very purposeful plan. So moving on, these are the different targeted cohorts that the Center for Student Success works with. Now, remember I said, we're open to everybody. Any and every student can use our services at any point in time. Some students can be referred, a faculty member, or their CA on their floor. Somebody can notice something and say, I think you should go, or a student can present on their own. But there are some particular cohorts that we're responsible for as well. One of them, as I mentioned, was the undeclared general major, and those are students who are coming truly undeclared. They're not affiliated with any particular school. There's something at our institution called the designated transitional major. Every major has, as you can imagine, standards. If you are a history major, you need to maintain a certain GPA in your history courses, and that. If a student falls behind and is not doing well in their actual major, if their GPA is okay, they might be dismissed from their major and they kind of have no academic home. We take care of them and help them find their academic home and or get back to their old academic home if that's the case. Provisional students, that's also another very particular program that students are admitted to the college for. So you would know if you were a provisional student, and we oversee that cohort of students, and we serve as their primary advisor as well. And then there's 2 additional programs here of targeted programmatic efforts to support a particular kind of cohort of students. The Pride Mentoring Program, which works with our African American and Latino and first generation students who want to self-identify and choose to affiliate. Nobody's forced to connect or expected to connect, but there'll be outreach. And if they want to be part of that program, one of our staff members within CSS works and coordinates that program, and it's a very robust program to support those students. We have a new program this year, the Commitment Grant Scholars Program, and that's, again, a targeted cohort of students. You'd know if if you're a commitment grant scholar, because there's a summer program they're going to be a part of, and support ongoing through a staff member within our office. So we kind of have our hands and our tentacles out in lots of different things. But that's why it's in bold there on the bottom. Although we have these cohorts that we specifically target and work with, our programs and our services are open to all students across campus. You want to be sure that's very clear. All right. And next is just another cool program that students can take advantage of, our PACs, our peer academic coaches. And these are specifically trained TCNJ students who we find have an interest and have an ability to connect with students. Sometimes can receive information better from their peers. So we train these PACs to work with our students on advising, and they're around for registration. They help students prepare for when they're going to meet with their faculty advisor. They're not going to take the place of their faculty advisor, but it kind of helps your students to answer the surface level questions. So that way, when they meet with their academic advisor, they can get to the meat of what they want to learn about as it relates to their major and sequence to grad, not how do I put classes in my shopping cart kind of thing, how do I work pause and all these other, that's what our PACs can help with. So it's really student-focused guidance for questions and researching different things and just helping the students know where to find that stuff. And we're also adding a new element to our PACs this year and allowing them to kind of be that triage center. And we're going to give them specialized training to become time management consultants and academic coaches on just the general study skills. That's a great job that maybe one of the future students out there may become one of our PACs down the road. So that's the Center for Student Success in a really big nutshell. I'm going to start to cut down because I tend to be a little chatty. But we're located in Roscoe West Hall, and that's the building that has the big lion in front of it. You know what? I have to watch myself because we have the new lion in front of the Student Center. Yes, ours used to be the only lion on campus. Now they got this beautiful bronze one. So not the bronze one, but this one's kind of like in the quad in the main center of campus. And Roscoe West Hall is a really great, what I call resource hub, because the tutoring center's there, the Center for Student Success is there, our career center's there, our leadership program is there. Moving in the middle of July is our Division of Inclusive Excellence is moving in upstairs, and our Accessibility Resource Center is there. So there's a lot of great things located in that building. But Center for Student Success, CSS, email and website can't get any easier than that. css@tcnj.edu, or the website is css.tcnj.edu, and follow us on Instagram as well. So that's CSS. Let's chat quickly. I swear, tutoring is going to be a lot faster. All right, tutoring set. What we do. This is done by peer tutors. We have a staff of 150 to 200 peer student tutors. That's the big difference between the Tutoring Center and the Center for Student Success. The Center for Student Success, you're going to set up an appointment and meet one-on-one with a professional staff member to manage those general study skills or questions or time management. You're going to go to the Tutoring Center and work one-on-one with a trained tutor to master course content. Don't go to CSS if you need help with Spanish, or you want somebody to help you with your paper, or need help with your statistics because you're not understanding it. That's the Tutoring Center. Develop learning skills. These particular things, the problem solving, analytical thinking, writing good researched arguments, all that stuff is content specific. So when you go to a tutor for biology, there may be some writing tied in there, tied to how they have to do their lab reports. Or if you have a communications course where there's particular research that needs to be done, and you're in the COM 103 class, you get a tutor for COM 103. You get a tutor for French. You get a tutor for analytical geometry. Whatever it is that you need, we will more than likely have a tutor in that area. We offer tutoring across all the 7 schools. as well as just general writing consultations. So, any paper you're working on, whether it is a sociology paper or a paper related to a lit class or a nursing class or anything else, you can just get a writing consultation. You don't have to find a tutor for that particular course, because all you're worried about is the particular writing assignment. Sometimes you do need help. Nursing courses, that's a very popular class that gets, or major that has lots of tutoring going on, understandably so, because that is content. And as you see when you go to the next slide, you can get tutoring done in a variety of different ways. These peer tutors can meet with you for weekly individual tutoring or just a single session. You may just need help and you just sign up for one, and then that's sufficient. If you want to say, you know what, this day and time works for me and I really think I'm going to need tutoring on a regular basis for this engineering course, then you sign up for weekly tutoring sessions with that particular tutor. You can have either or a mix of both. Group tutoring sessions. Sometimes that can be very, very helpful because you're in, and we even were able to maintain group tutoring sessions in a virtual environment. We have drop-in tutoring. When we were on campus, and obviously now that when we go back, there were times on Sunday evenings in the library or in the science complex, we would have for particular courses, 1 or 2 tutors there that specialized, say, in 5 courses, and people just dropped in, had a particular question that they had to get answered, and then they left. The writing consultations, as I mentioned. We also have e-tutoring, and that's an asynchronous writing lab where somebody kind of submits and drops off a paper online, and then within 24 to 48 hours, they get it back with some feedback. There's live e-tutoring happening, or e-questions, like an e-chat, and it's offered throughout the fall and spring semesters. And traditional tutoring, like with an actual student tutor, that's only fall and spring. But we have e-tutoring open anytime we have classes happening. So in the winter session, as well as in the summer sessions. So that way students have access to some form of tutoring regardless. And a little well-kept secret is if you're a TCNJ student, even if you're taking a class somewhere else, you can access our, if you're taking, a summer or winter session at your local county college, you'd be able to access our e-tutoring as well. But you don't want to take all your classes at TCNJ. So next, all of our tutors are trained. They are CRLA certified. That means they've gone through extensive training. And as I do research at other institutions, our tutors are like trained at probably almost a higher level than other institutions, because we have them go through an actual course. And if you're going to be a writing tutor, 2 courses where they attend a class biweekly and earn credit for that class, because there's that much content that they're being taught, not the content that they're tutoring in, but how to be an effective tutor, how to be sure that they are assisting the student and they're not doing the work for them. This is, again, that whole fishing thing I told you, teaching them to fish. They're not going to mark up a piece of paper in proofreading and say, okay, go back and fix what I told you to fix. No, it's going to be, let me talk you through how to write an appropriate thesis. Read this over to me again. What do you hear in this? Like, they're being trained to be the most effective tutors to help your students build on their own skills. So that way, the next time they come to tutoring, maybe it'll be for something else, but not that same issue. Okay. So, and it's a great job opportunity for students. So down the road, you need to have taken the course at TCNJ for what. So obviously, you're not walking in the door as a first semester freshman and becoming a tutor, but probably by their sophomore year, many of the students out there may be looking to have a job in our tutoring center. And as I said before, our services were offered virtually this past academic year, but we're going to be transitioning those to in-person services for this academic year. We may start off virtually to slowly funnel in person, to do that in the healthiest and safest way possible, as well as perhaps maintain the option of virtual if students are, because again, something that you fell into. What if you got a student who happened to go home or is commuting and the weather's bad, but they need that tutoring session? Now we have the beautiful way to do it online, whereas before they would have had to cancel. So it'll be a mix. But all right, so that's it for tutoring. Again, you see it, we're in Roscoe West Hall, easy email and website to connect with us. And the last slide there is just my information. And the reason why I throw my my middle initial in there, because then it makes sense when you look at my email. My email is Cruz. Cruz at tcnj.edu. If you have ever any questions or concerns about your students and what they can do, you feel like they're struggling, but they're not sure what they're struggling with or who to ask, reach out to me and I'm going to be sure to connect them with the right people. So now I'm going to stop talking because I could go on forever about all this stuff. You can tell I'm excited about all of this, and I'd love to hear some questions that people may have had.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yvonne. It's such helpful info. So I don't care if you go, we had the whole hour. So you were perfect on timing. No worries there. So I was answering questions in the chat. I think the two that I didn't know, and a couple things. One, I'll share her PowerPoint. I'll put her PowerPoint presentation on the website. So I will send an email out with that. Well, actually, it might not be an email to all of you. I might do that when I do the next caffeine checks. Will be a couple weeks until the next one. But if you go to the Student Transitions website, I'll get that up on the website sometime tomorrow. So her presentation will be up there with her contact information. And then I was troubleshooting questions. I have one or two things to circle back on that I already answered. But Yvonne, I'm going to give you the two that I didn't know the answer to first. So the first one was a little bit early on, and this parent, her student hasn't taken any AP courses, and I can empathize because my high school offered one, and I took it, and it was AP Spanish, and that was that. But her question was, managing that, and are there any kind of, I'm not going to say disadvantages, but are there things that that the student should be cognizant of, because she will be coming into TCNJ not having taken an advanced placement course prior to joining?
Well, all schools are different in the way they teach. Believe it or not, I took a couple AP courses in my high school, and again, hindsight, and being aware and being in this world, I wasn't as challenged as some other people were taking AP. So AP isn't automatically, having that title doesn't designate that now you are able to operate at this super high level. So don't, if your student was accepted to the college, then they can handle the rigor. The college is not going to put out a risk. And we're really, really proud of our graduation and retention rates. So trust me, they're not going to say, let's give this kid a chance. No, they know that your student can make it. If they feel like they're struggling initially, because perhaps, say, I'll use a literature course. Some people have taken an AP literature course. And if your student takes a lit class and they realize that their peers around them understand something at a deeper level than they themselves do, that's a great opportunity to meet with the faculty member and say, you know what, I feel like I'm a little bit behind you. You referenced this theory or this author, and I wasn't as familiar with them. Can you point me in the direction, can we have a conversation and maybe you can give me the background, or can you point me in a direction of a resource I can go to, maybe a particular additional book I can reference or something. It's a great opportunity for your student to connect with a faculty member. If they're struggling with the content, because maybe it's going a little faster for them and they made an assumption in the class that everybody in there, we're just doing review right now, but for your student, it isn't a review. That could be the case. If they feel like it's going a little fast, that's the perfect case for tutoring. Perfect case for tutoring. So that way they can continue to work on and hone some of those foundational pieces that the professor's going through quickly and they might need a little more time for. Or if it's a mix of those kinds of those two things, maybe meeting with somebody in the Center for Student Success of like, okay, I know for this particular class, maybe I got to work a little extra hard. So I got to find time in my week to add like an additional layer of studying. Where can I find that so I don't feel overwhelmed? And then they can meet with one of our staff members. So there's a couple different ways. But don't automatically feel that you're at this tremendous disadvantage. your student more than likely will be fine. And if they, and because there's plenty of students who have near perfect SATs and all top rank of their class, and they're showing up in the tutoring center, and they're showing up in CSS. Everybody, every student is different, and the way they feel the impact of the material is different. So as long as they're honest about it, what I warn against is the student who sticks their head in the sand, is the student who walks in with such high personal expectations and or has family high expectations that when they start to fall behind or they struggle or they're feeling overwhelmed, they don't want to tell anybody. And then they fall further behind and further behind. You make sure you let your students know it's okay. It's probably normal and more common than they think that students struggle, feel overwhelmed, start to kind of not get a handle on their time management piece or struggle with the class. That is super common. I want them to walk in understanding that so they don't hide, because those are the stories that break my heart. By the time they come, they're so far behind that they're trying to salvage a really low grade or trying to salvage not to fail. Whereas if they showed up when they first started to struggle, we really would have been able to help them. So have those open conversations with your students to make sure they know it's okay and not to be ashamed of saying that they're starting to feel overwhelmed. So that way they can hey, tutoring at some other schools is actually an additional fee at some places. This is all built in. Use it, because in essence, that's what your tuition pays for. So maximize all those resources and use them just to stay on top of things.
Yeah, I mean, you can't drive home that point anymore. So, and I'll just really quickly share. I mean, I was a 4.0 student in high school who failed chemistry 112 at Penn State my first semester, because I didn't do exactly what Yvonne's telling you and your student to do. And it's just really so important that, we're going to have students who come in who've taken all of the AP score, AP classes. They're going to struggle. We have students who have taken none. They're going to come in. They may not need the resources, but it's really your student having a really good sense of self-awareness about themselves to go, you know what? Yes, and now I need to ask for help, and that's okay, versus not. And you don't want to end up like me. I mean, I fought for 7 more semesters and barely dug out of that hole, and I don't regret it, right? There's a lot of your student's going to have failure at TCNJ and failure in college and failure at life. And I think part of that is learning to, get some grit and some adversity and work through that. So I'm very grateful that that experience happened to me. But, I kick myself every time Yvonne does this presentation, because it's like, wow, if I could just get to 18-year-old Lindsay and tell her to go ask for help, maybe chemistry wouldn't have been so bad, but that's another story for another day. So hopefully that helped. The second question is very fast, Yvonne. It was just somebody asked if there was a cap on the number of times that they could access tutoring per week. Like, is there a limit to any utilizing of the tutoring resources on a weekly basis?
That's a really great question. I'm glad they asked that. Yes and no. A student can get tutoring in every single one of the classes that they're in. So it's not like, well, only pick the 2 hardest classes for this semester. No, every single class. But you can't get more than 1 tutoring session in a given week for that class. So you can't say, I'm struggling with calc, so I want a tutoring session on Monday, Thursday, and Friday. No, because then it would just be overwhelming. Then, we don't have the staffing resources to manage that. So it's one tutoring session per course per week. So if you have a student who's in 4 classes and they want tutoring once a week for each one of those 4 classes, and that's what, maybe 15 weeks from when tutoring starts, usually a couple weeks into the semester, they can do that. So there's no limitation there. There's no, if you've taken a total of 30 sessions, then we've capped you. No, the only limitation is within a given week, that 1 class, you can only do once a week, but you could do all 4 of those classes in 1 week. And the sign up, it's a super easy online sign up now, where students kind of identify themselves, what course they wanted and who's available to teach that, and how does that match their availability. And it's just very, it gives the student the autonomy to do that themselves at any point in time.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, those were the big ones. We got some other questions. Actually, no, and I have one more, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. So I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot. And let me start off with a very blanket statement. So we've had some questions about change of major. So what's happening right now, the window to request a change of major has closed. So we evaluate students when they apply to TCNJ within the parameters of that particular major. So when your student applied to, say, nursing, for example, they were evaluated and compared to everybody else, the strength of the applicant pool for that particular major that came in. So admissions, the Office of Admissions, handled change of major requests up into a certain point, and I believe that was the middle of May. And after that point now, for the rest of the summer, we are not granting any change of major requests at this time. So your student has to stay put in that major that they applied into and were accepted into at the college for now. All right. What happens in the fall semester, okay, is that they'll obviously start their classes. And let's say that they are just like, nope, no, this is not going to be a good move for me. So a couple things. One, go see Yvonne's area. We just talked a lot about Center for Student Success. Pop over there. But the college about 2 or 3 years ago now put together a beautiful PDF that outlines every department at TCNJ has to update this every year and say, hey, these are the requirements for students that are interested in what we call an internal transfer. So that is a current student who is looking to transfer into a new major from the major that they're currently in. All right, it is a beautiful PDF, and I'm going to share it with you because I do believe that this is last year's, January 2021. So this has been updated at least for the spring semester. It actually might even get, I don't remember how frequently it's updated. So it's either per semester or per academic year. Here's the link to it. So what your student can do now in the meantime is take a look to manage their expectations of what it's going to involve looking like for they know they want to kind of get to this point, right? So for some departments, it is, hey, fill out this form. We'll see you next semester, right? Maybe they have the seats, whatever the case may be. Bada bing, bada boom. Other departments may say, hey, you know what? We want you to take these 2 or 3 classes, and assuming that you have baseline GPA, whatever the case may be, you fill out this application, you'll be able to come in. So it's different. It varies. It all depends on where you are now, where your student is now, and where they want to go. I think that some people get, really, nervous about, okay, well, what happens if they say no? There are a couple majors at the school that are very difficult to transfer into, right? Whether because we just don't have enough seats, or, very competitive, or course sequencing, right? We have a lot of majors here at the college where it's very tight. We want to get you in and out in 4 years. And that means that your sequencing for all of your semesters with your classes is really tight. So coming in as an internal transfer, that could get a little bit messy with regards to, graduating on time, where we're going to be doing makeup classes, et cetera, et cetera. So that document is super helpful. You can share it with your student, but again, really want to stress, we cannot do major changes right now. We are locked until the start of the semester. That being said, I don't, and I put this in the chat, right? College is about exploring, right? I started off as a meteorology major. I graduated as a meteorology major. I didn't have the option when I found out senior year that maybe this isn't what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? It was a little too late for me, but part of the joy of going to college and going to a school like TCNJ is that maybe you're going to take a class that you fall in love with and a topic that you had no idea you were so passionate about that you can convert into a minor or a double major, or maybe you do ultimately make that switch. It happens every day, right? It's just a matter of where you're coming from, where you need to go, what your schedules look like, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't want to discourage students from feeling like they have made this decision at 17 years old about what they want to be when they grow up, and now all of a sudden that they're stuck. I want to paint the picture that there are a couple majors that will be very difficult to get into, but that document, that PDF will be very helpful for your student. But for right now, we're locked and loaded. Now, Yvonne, back to you for this last question. Somebody asked about changing major into undeclared general after the first semester, right? So this would be ideally a situation they'd be coming to talk to you in the fall. And I don't know, because it's relatively new. I don't know if that's
brand new major. As of now, it's not a major people can choose to be. You can walk in as undeclared with the expectation that by starting your sophomore year, for some of our students, they actually were able to get into their major come the second semester because they had an idea of what they wanted initially. But it is right now not an open major in the way the other ones are for students to get into, just because of the nature of that major and the way that we advise that cohort. Can that potentially change down the road? It may. But for right now, as Lindsay referenced, it is new. Everything that's old is new again. We used to have it on the million years ago, because remember, I've been here a million years, so I remember. But we hadn't for a very long time. Only the undeclared, or what we called open options, undecided, were strictly housed within the schools. You knew I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't know which one, early childhood or secondary. So I was undecided, or open options education or engineering. But you had to affiliate with a school. Last year was the first time in many, many years that we allowed it to be an undeclared general. So we're just bringing in the second cohort, and it actually was the fourth most popular major that people applied for. Yeah. So it's kind of a hot thing. But we don't have a huge number, relatively speaking, in that major, because we have primarily 1 to 2 staff members who advise that cohort. And it is a complicated cohort because we want to be sure we give them the overall exposure to all the different things. So right now, that's a long answer to a short question of no, it's not going to be a major, because you can kind of live in your major and do what you would be doing if you were an undeclared major.
Yes.
Live in your major. And that doesn't mean if you are an electrical engineering major that the system will stop you from taking anything but electrical engineering courses. No, I've seen students who found out that that's not what they want to be, and they want to become a graphic designer. Then they start to take 1 or 2 courses in that, and then eventually, if they get accepted, transition into that major. You can do that while you're still housed in major. And then if you happen to feel that whoever your advisor is at that time can't really help you because they don't understand that major, hello, that's who we are, Center for Student Success. So you will, in essence, get the same type of support and have the same opportunities to take classes that an undeclared major would. Mm-hmm. And the kind of guidance that you'd probably get, because you'd be getting it from us as well. All right, so yeah. Don't panic too much about that.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. And I think the thing too, a lot of people get really worked up over is that all of those general education, what we call liberal learning classes, they're going to count. So most of the time, if a student decides to change course and to declare a new major or do that internal transfer process, as long as it's taking place typically in the first, year to 2 years, and again, this will vary depending on where they are right now, they're usually able to pivot and make up ground and still be able to graduate on time. Right now, again, if you were like me in senior year fall semester, decided that, oopsies, should have done this eye-opening internship 2 years ago, totally different story they were having, with me, and it didn't work out. But again, so timing is going to be a piece to this, but a lot of the classes in that first semester that your student going to be taking, it's not going, if they change course, those classes are going to still fulfill other graduation requirements as a part of our liberal learning program. So it's a really important thing to do too. I think a lot of times parents and students at this point think they need to have it all figured out. And most of these chats and most of the times when I'm on the phone with them, I'm just like, take a deep breath, because I am 30, almost 38, and I still don't have it figured out. Like, it's okay to kind of just roll the punches here a little bit and not have every single second of your next 2, 3, 4 years, depending on where you're entering with TC&J, mapped out yet, right? Some of the best blessings and opportunities in life come when you least expect that. So just keep an eye out for that. A few more things I want to wrap up with, and then we'll get you out of here. I had a quick question submitted. Okay, I had a whole bunch of housing questions submitted. We're going to get to housing, not tonight, but I promise the housing information is coming. We're a little early in the process for it. The roommates don't go out until July, and then we will have all sorts of time to talk about requirements for the residence halls and all sorts of good stuff coming. So I promise I'm not ignoring you, but housing, not too quick yet. Okay. I did get a question about the academic calendar. We are going to talk a lot about this at the next Caffeine chat. So the next Caffeine chat is going to be in now 3 weeks. It's July 11th. You'll get an email just like everything else. And my special guest that night will be Frank Cooper, who is our executive director for the Office of Records and Registration. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff in that session. The academic calendar is one of them. I am going to put the link in the comments section for now because I believe somebody had a question about dates for next year. The academic calendar is typically published 1 to 2 years ahead of time, so that next year's calendar is already up and approved. But we're going to talk to him about, because records and registration is the home of the academic calendar. We're going to talk to him about that. We're going to talk to him about FERPA and authorized users. We're going to talk to him about mid-year progress reports and advising. We're going to talk to him about all of our new student requirements. So I got a question about, well, what's this information literacy course and what is this SRP stuff? So we're going to walk you through some new student requirements that are going to look like classes on the schedule that are not classes. We're going to talk about how we're structured in terms of course units and credits coming in. His office has the academic evaluators that any of my transfer students and families on the call tonight, they have the staff that looked through and did all of your transcript evaluations. So we have a huge, awesome, big session coming up with Frank in a couple weeks. So you don't mind sitting tight for a little bit, unless your question is super, super urgent. If it is, you can always email me. Yvonne, are you getting out of here? Are you waving because you have
No. I wanted to pop in and say, I just sent, actually, I sent you via GChat a link. When you're talking about the calendar, at Center for Student Success, we created a virtual academic calendar that has, links and information about the academic calendar in general, but a lot of other goodies that students can access to, whether it's time management tips or information about offices. What I sent you is last academic years, because obviously we're in the process of building the one that we'll have available for academic year 21-22. But if you wanted to take a peek at that, and you can share the link with the team, they can see, there's different ways to do it. You could just access it virtually or download it, and because there are some fillable PDF pages in there that if somebody wanted to download it and actually use and the tips and tools, they can.
Already in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome.
Great reminder. It's in there from last year and looking forward to seeing that again this year. So academic calendar. So we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff in a couple of weeks. So sit tight there. And again, obviously, if it's like a pressing emergency, you can shoot me an email at studenttransitions@tcnj.edu. But we really move through the summer in the same way that we're moving through the summer with your student. And we're really focused on sharing information at the right time. And that is going to be the session right before our virtual orientation for the first year and the provisional students, and then our on-campus component optional program for everybody, including the transfers. So that leads me into one of two reminders I wanted to talk about tonight. And the first was the orientation, because I had a few questions about that. So transfer families, yay! Your virtual sessions for your students from an academic perspective is coming up on Tuesday. This is again, so 9 to 12. We've had them block off 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. They got an email from me yesterday with the session times. We are going to send all of the transfer students an email tomorrow afternoon with the Zoom links for their sessions. We do this because last year we had a really unfortunate situation, and I know all of you have probably been there. Hopefully you have not, because this one was really awful and terrible, but with these Zoom bombers and these inappropriate people coming in. So we don't send out the Zoom links until like the 11th hour. I always get a couple of students who are super anxious, and honestly, it probably would have been me if I had been 18 at the time. But we send them out the afternoon before, and then they are going to log right in. There was no RSVP for the virtual academic sessions because it's an expectation that the students are going to be attending this, right? This is where we can work on our schedules and finalize our schedules, and we meet our department, our department chairs, and we talk a little bit about why they were placed into certain classes, etc. So transfer students, your virtual sessions are on Tuesday, and then you get a break, and then you're going to have the option to come on campus in July for the optional program, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. All right, so that's a just big reminder for the transfer students, and if you have any questions, let me know. First year students, same boat, right? So you are going to, block, okay, so the week of July 19th through the 22nd, okay? So first year and provisional students, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, okay? You have a day. You have to go find, I have a whole beautiful website, part of this website that talks about finding your day based on your major. We split everybody up by major for that week. And then that morning between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m., you're going to have your academic sessions, all right? These academic sessions, again, no RSVP because it is expected that the students are going to show up. you're going to want to show up. This is going to be a time where you're going to sit on the Zoom with your department chair. That department chair is going to welcome you to the department. They're going to talk about exciting things that are coming up in your first semester. They are going to explain why you were enrolled in certain classes, right, for the fall to a much more detailed extent that I can. You know, I get questions all the time. Well, why am I seeing this class? Well, I don't know. I'm not your department chair, but that person will be able to explain how it works. You know, even though we take over the pre-registration for the students over the summer, they are guided. Each department has what's called a first semester sequence, right, that most students, again, incoming first year and provisional students, are going to kind of fit into, right? So they're going to go through and explain, well, you were enrolled into this class because it's a prerequisite for all these to come, and all incoming X majors take this course, right? You're going to get a lot of really good background information for why your schedule looks the way that it does. All right. Normally for orientation, I would say, hey, this is the part where we say you're finalized. See you later. Because the AP scores are coming in late this year. All right. So we normally get AP scores at around July 4th, and we get a couple weeks to make those adjustments. Because we are not getting them until likely after orientation this year, there is a chance that some schedules might change once the AP scores come in. So a lot of the students will be finalized at orientation with their schedule for the fall, and then a few others might have some changes that occur after orientation as a result of the AP scores. I think I said this last week, but trust and believe, we are all hands on deck ready. The second these AP scores get in and get loaded, we've had multiple conversations about it. People are going to go, okay? We're moving, we're hustling, we're making moves so that those schedules can lift up. As a reminder, your student schedule is not finalized right now. So please don't panic, start freaking out about they're not enrolled in this, why aren't they enrolled in that, blah, blah, blah. We are pre-registering 1,800 new students simultaneously right now. It is, and personally, right? That's the reason that hopefully you chose TC and J. You don't get spit into a machine and out you go. There's 4 classes. See you later, right? You are having a schedule that is crafted specifically for you as an incoming major here at the college based on what you put in your first semester worksheet. Again, this is my first years and provisionals I'm talking to. So lots more to come on that, but do not panic. This is the part where the worksheet is done. You get to sit back and relax. Sit tight, let us do our magic, and we'll work, and we'll catch up with you there. I also had a question about the writing placement exam scores. Not done yet. So could you imagine having to grade 1,500 essays or however many they had to do? Like madness. Where I think it's like that first week of July, we should be getting those scores. So again, everybody's having the writing placement exam graded right now, but we don't have those results for another 2 weeks or so. Where to find, okay, so that is virtual, what we consider mandatory sessions. If your student, if you are gone, if you do not have access to the internet on the day that your student is coming, if there's all sorts of issues and you cannot come to the virtual session, no problem. It's okay. Take a deep breath. We always have students who can't make orientation for whatever reason. Just email your department chair, not me. Somebody emailed me the other day. I can't do anything. Email your department chair. Just give them a heads up. Hey, Dr. Paces, I'm not going to be able to make the orientation for the history majors in July. I don't remember what day it is, but whatever that day is, is it possible for us to connect so that I can, get that information or whatnot, right? And then you have that conversation started. Your student, obviously your student should be sending this email, and you'll be able to, navigate and just get some of that context and some of that background information so that your student feels comfortable with where they landed with their schedule and they have the opportunity to ask the questions. Okay, now that should clear up all the virtual stuff. We are hosting the week of July 19 in the afternoons because that all takes place in the morning. So afternoon, 1 to 4:30 is this optional in-person program. The schedule, the RSVP links, the instructions, everything you could ever want to know about orientation is in the Transition Times newsletter that hopefully your student didn't just gloss over and delete, okay? It is in 2 of them. If you go to my website, it is on the July 2 Transition Times newsletter, which was volume 3. It is in the June 16 Transition Times newsletter, which is from last week as well. Okay, those 2, they're both on my website. I will share my website just as a reminder. Everybody here, this is the first year student one, but the transfer students, you can just navigate to your tab. RSVP deadline closes the 25th. Is that coming up? Yes, it's Friday. Yes, RSVP deadline is the 25th. Students will be allowed to change their date, but they will not be able to RSVP to come after the 25th. So please go back and read those emails. I promise you 95% of the questions are answered in there. There is a sample schedule for what we're doing in the afternoon, tentatively. More confirmation details to come, obviously Zoom links for the virtual stuff, the finalized schedule for the in-person piece. I am finalizing health and safety guidelines and requirements that we're going to have for having students on and families on campus. So more to come, that you are not late. But if your students like, I don't know what's going on with orientation, go read the transition times. And then again, you can always email me if you have questions or concerns after the fact. Okay, I went on too long. That was my orientation reminder. And I think that the pre-registration, I just wanted to really quickly touch base about that. So let me just scroll back through and see if there's any last minute sessions that were, okay, so first semester course is finalized. Catherine, I think I answered that question for you. And yay, I'm so glad you found this information helpful and these sessions helpful. That's the goal, right? It's just sharing information with all of you so that you can support your students. So Yvonne, huge shout out to you for there. She was impressed with the vast amount of resources your office offers. So thanks there. Let's see. My daughter would like to view this, but is working. Yes. Okay. So they all live on the YouTube site. The beauty of doing this StreamYard process is that these chats can be viewable anytime after live that you want. And that YouTube channel link that I send out has them. I think you have to click on the videos tab and all of the old videos will be posted there. If you go to the main site, all the upcoming ones will be listed there as well. So you can have that. Hi, Lindsay, for first year student, has the email for July 19 to 22 been sent? Yes. Oh, I already answered that twice. Okay. Will the honors program classes be named differently? Yeah. So Giselle, you had a question about the honors student, the honors program. There's some changes to that this year, but they are designated differently. And the old way was that all of the incoming honors students had to take an honors course in their first semester. The new change this year is that they take one at some point in the first academic year. So some of the honors students will take an honors course in the fall. Other honors students will take an honors course in the spring semester. So it's just one class, but you should be receiving, if not already, some more specific details about the honors program from the honors program coordinator, probably within the next couple of weeks. And she typically is around at orientation to answer questions. I haven't touched base with her yet, but I will soon to figure out, how she'll be involved in answering questions that week for the students who do and the families who do come to campus. Okay, last one, and I think we're out of here. Will students be getting this information on tutoring, CSS department, or so during orientation? Great question. So during orientation, no, right? We're at the point in the process where the students are going to get really overwhelmed here for a while. The focus right now, really big, is on their classes. Rightfully so, like which ones they're taking. That's a very big thing. And housing and the roommates. So that's kind of where their brain's at the moment. When we get to orientation, Yvonne's area will have a table at our resource fair. There will be somebody there to answer in-person questions, but that's really what the start of Welcome Week is for, right? Is really introducing students to resources then. But the interesting piece is that, everybody wants a piece of the Welcome Week pie. I get emails all the time. Hey, can I do this during Welcome Week? Can we do this session during Welcome Week? And the students don't really like it over their head, right? Because they're focused on, hey, we want to make them feel comfortable. We want to make them feel like they have some friends, that they've met some new people, that they know where they're going for the first day of class, right? It's a huge adjustment. So Welcome Week focuses on some mandatory things, on introduction of support services, right? So we definitely will cover this in some capacity during Welcome Week, but it's really the first 6 to 8 weeks of the semester that we want to focus on that, because some students are going to come in thinking, you know what, I don't need Mrs. Cruz. Miss Cruz is great, but like, I don't really need what she's offering over there, right? And then like at week 5, they're like, oh, what? And then, in midterm season, like first week in October, when all of a sudden those first exam grades are hitting and they're like, oh, I am, right? It's at that point that we want to go, hey, everybody, remember when we talked about this? So it's really intentional how we do it, but the focus for areas like Yvonne's circle it's just early and often, right? We just constantly want to be chatting with them. We want to be highlighting workshops and opportunities. When she talked so much, it resonated so strongly with me, Yvonne, about the staff mentoring. And there are just so many people that they could meet along the way that just will help and who will connect the dots. I had a student once who actually, she was a student staff member of mine, and I I banned her from all future staff meetings. Like her favorite thing was these weekly staff meetings we had. And she was dragging her feet on going to the Career Center to talk about preparing for an interview to work on a cruise ship because she really wanted to work on a cruise ship. And I told her, I was like, you're not coming anymore. I don't want to see you. No, she was in my office all the time. Nope, you go and you talk to Miss Lynette Harris and you're not coming back until you tell me that you did. And her mom later thanked me at graduation because she needed to go talk to Lynette. But like, the staff it's so much support aside from just, your nuts and bolts advisor who's obviously going to guide your student from those classes. But, college is a lot more than just class. So I will end on that because I know that we have gone way over. And let me just see if there's anything else. Again, more to come. I think we're good. I'll stick on and I will answer the rest of the ones that just came in, but save the date. So we have a couple weeks off, but July 11th, you'll get an email that week before, right after the July 4th holiday with the information to RSVP. But Yvonne, thank you so much. I always love when you get to come on and share such incredible support information for our students. And thank you to everybody, especially because I know that it was Father's Day. I really appreciate y'all checking in. And then again, I'll just put my email in the chat. And if you have any other questions, let me know. But otherwise, thank you and have a great evening.
Yes. Happy Father's Day to everyone. Don't be a stranger. I hope your students. I do.
Thanks. All right. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Bye-bye.